Hi, I'm Erik Voss, and my favorite comedy show is Rick and Morty on Adult Swim. And ever since I broke down the first episode of season 3 that was released early, I've gone back to rewatch this series again, and I've caught so many subtle jokes that I wanted to point out for you guys. Now, yes, the show Rick and Morty is packed with references, so I'm gonna skip over the more obvious stuff, point out the little things that I missed the first time that made me laugh when I caught them this time. And you may have already noticed some of these, but just go with it. Go with it. You know, just go with it and don't stop judging. And before I get into these, this video was brought to you by Quid. Now, you know that thing where you like toss a sticker onto a text message? Well, Quid is an app that will put on your phone exclusive stickers like Rick and Morty and Breaking Bad stuff. They also have cards and 3D figures, and it's all free. And we're gonna do a giveaway of a cool ass Rick and Morty Funko Pop vinyl figure, and I'll get to more details on that later in the video. Okay, so to get started, the first thing I wanna point out is Rick's burping. Now, this isn't really a joke, but this specific style of belching through words is actually a reference to the old school comedian Foster Brooks. He was known from the old Fire Scrub roasts.
Thank you very much. As the Frederick and gentleman just told you.
Okay, so with that out of the way, let's look at the first episode, the pilot. One of the craziest things that happens this episode is that a kid freaking dies. Morty's bully and Summer's crush, Frank. Now, Rick freezes Frank and he tips over and shatters. And the missable joke here is that later in the episode, to honor Frank, the school flies its flag at half-mast. Also in this episode, outside Beth's horse hospital, there's an early establishing shot of doctors trying to wrangle a fussy horse. But then later in the episode, they're hosing down bloodstains in the same spot, implying that this horse didn't make it. Now, the second episode is called The Lawnmower Dog, and that title is a reference to the 1992 movie The Lawnmower Man, where a scientist gives a mentally handicapped gardener super intelligence, which is more or less the premise of the plot in this episode with Snuffles the dog. Now, you may have noticed that Rick mistakenly refers to the dog as Ruffles, and Ruffles is the name of the dog in Justin Roiland's animated project they never completed called Dog World. It's about a society of smart dogs. And one of my favorite jokes this episode is Snuffles changing his name to Snowball.
Snuffles was my slave name. You shall now call me Snowball, because my fur is pretty and white.
And actually, Snowball was the name of the evil boss pig in George Orwell's Animal Farm. Now, another inside joke that showed up in this episode is this guy with the rainbow suspenders and a football shirt. According to Justin Roiland, this character was originally intended to be the in-universe link among Rick and Morty and two other shows animated by his friends, Alex Hirsch, who does Gravity Falls, and Jason Ruiz, who made a show called Murder Police on Fox that never aired. Notice how the football on his shirt has 3 Roman numerals on it, 18, 3, and 5. Now, Roiland said that the character would have had different numbers on his shirt in the other 2 shows, and that together that they would all form a code with corresponding letters. These numbers correspond to R, C, and E. But unfortunately, we'll never know what that word was gonna be because the other 2 animators couldn't fit him into their shows. So unfortunately, this guy is just a rando who shows up throughout season 1 in this episode, but also in the background of Close Encounters of the Rick Kind, then ranting against trunk people marriage rights and Rick's minutes, and then leaving the party early in the season finale. And then lastly in this episode, I love this little moment when Morty returns to his family and Summer runs up to hug him, kind of motorboating him, and Morty pushes her away. And this is because he's still traumatized from the dream earlier where his sister was too sexy. Okay, moving on. I loved all the references in Anatomy Park to things like Jurassic Park and Disney World, but one super dark and really subtle joke that not everyone caught, but you're honestly pretty lucky if you did miss it, came from Ethan. This is Summer's clingy boyfriend. Remember, the character Jacob counseled Ethan to help him make a breakthrough, but when you listen to what he says closely, it's pretty messed up.
My brother took me fishing once in the bushes. I can't. He made me feel like a girl. He made me a girl!
Yeah, I'm not gonna spell out what exactly he means by that, but I'll let you be the judge. So episode 4, that was M. Night Shyamalan's, was also great, but I wanna skip past it to my favorite episode of the series, episode 5, Meeseeks and Destroy. This, of course, is a famous Mr. Meeseeks episode, also the episode of the awful Mr. Jellybean scene. And I love this little animation detail of Rick's eyes following Mr. Jellybean as he leaves the bathroom, then back to Morty as he puts together what might have went down. And then later in that post-credit scene, when Jellybean's people learn the horrible truth and decide to hide it from the world, notice the statue. The little boy is wearing tighty-whities, and King Jellybean is doing this really disgusting, subtle lip bite. I also feel like this whole idea of letting King Jellybean die a hero is a subtle homage to the end of The Dark Knight, when Commissioner Gordon decides to cover up Harvey Dent's dark side so that he can die a martyr and inspire the people of Gotham. Like, even the music here sounds like it could have been composed by Hans Zimmer.
Wait. Destroy it.
Okay, moving on to the next episode, episode 6, Rick Potion number 9. It has a few fun, missable jokes. First, there was this intercom announcement from Principal Vagina warning kids with the flu not to come to the flu season dance.
I don't know how many times I have to say this, but if you have the flu, stay home. The flu season dance is about awareness, not celebration. You don't bring dead babies to Passover.
Now this, of course, is a pretty dark reference to the history of Passover, where God smited the firstborn children of the families of Egypt. And speaking of dark, at the end of this episode is one of my favorite jokes ever from Beth.
I wish that shotgun was my penis.
If it were, you could call me Ernest Hemingway.
I don't get it, and I don't need to.
Now, considering the writer Hemingway killed himself by putting a shotgun in his mouth, you can probably guess what she was going for. The next episode is Raising Gazorpazorp, which opens with a pretty great missable joke. The family debates over whether to intervene with Morty humping his sex robot upstairs, but then something goes wrong.
Rick, could you come with me, please? Quickly?
Okay, now if we hear squeaking, we intervene.
And I love the callback in the next scene.
Okay, unacceptable! Oh.
Also in this episode, the steps on the female Gazorpazorp court say sis semper calumniam, which is Latin for you're always wrong. And Summer says this to defend herself.
And if you think my top is cute, you cannot execute.
This is a reference to Johnny Cochran's famous defense in the O.J. Simpson trial.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Then at the end of this episode, Morty Jr.'s angry dance is a reference to Kevin Bacon's angry dance in Footloose. Now the next episode is Ricksty Minutes, aka the first interdimensional cable episode. And for this episode, many of the shows that they watched were improvised by Justin Roiland in the audio booth. That's why you can hear him breaking character a few times.
I'm Gazorpazorp field, bitch. Now give me my enchilada.
Called Two Brothers. Two Brothers. It's just called Two Brothers.
I also love where the camera flashes past a channel with a music video of Michael Jackson's Thriller with phone people. So this is the phone universe from Close Rick Counters of the Rick kind. Now the next episode, Something Ricked This Way Comes, has a bunch of little Easter eggs that you probably already spotted to things like Adventure Time and Stephen King and Stephen Jobs. But the one that I only now just caught was in the closing X Gonna Give It To You montage. The bully that they beat up in the schoolyard is a grown-up version of the character Randall from the show Recess. Okay, moving on to Close Rick Counters of the Rick kind, which introduces us to all the other Ricks and Mortys from different universes. So for example, in the background of the Citadel, there's a Cronenberg Rick and Cronenberg Morty, presumably from their C-137 universe that got Cronenberg. I also like the joke here when the Ricks examine Rick's portal gun.
Oh, come on, don't look at another man's portal gun history. We all go to weird places.
Now, of course, this is a reference to the universal anxiety of someone looking at all the porn in your internet search history. Ugh. But if you think about this, this is hilarious because this is how Rick looks at the universe. He's just surfing through different porn websites and getting off. Okay, now up next are two of the craziest visual gags in this entire series. So first up, I had mentioned Gravity Falls earlier, and a big reference comes in this episode. So when the Ricks are chasing our Rick and Morty through the portals, if you look closely, a few random objects fly out of this one. It turns out that is the same mug and other belongings of Grunkle Stan from an episode of Gravity Falls when he loses them in a portal. And I'll get to that second crazy visual gag in a second, but first I want to thank Quid for sponsoring this video. Quid is an awesome new app where you can collect great stickers and cards and 3D figures for free all on your phone. So if you use emojis and stickers when you text your friends like I do, Quid has thousands of free stickers that you can't find anywhere else, from great shows like Rick and Morty and Adventure Time and Bob's Burgers, Steven Universe, Powerpuff Girls and Family Guy, and Culture cult hits like Breaking Bad and Star Trek, and games like Five Nights at Freddy's. And hey, look at me! You can drag and drop these stickers on iMessage, like when you're chatting with your buddy and he's pressuring you to, oh geez, go on an adventure that you're just not ready for. And if you collect Funko Pop figures, Quid has those too. Actually, we're gonna do a giveaway where if you share this video on Twitter with the hashtag #NewRickStars, we'll pick you adorable poopy buttholes and send you a Funko Pop vinyl Rick and Morty figure. Yeah, get on this, these things are awesome. Now, some of these stickers, cards, and toys on Quid are super rare and hard to get, so good luck. But the good news is that you can meet cool people on Quid, look at their collections, and trade with them just as easily and as quick as chatting with each other. And as a new feature, you can showcase your collection by adding stickers to images you already have on your camera roll, including a new pack of New Rockstars themed stickers, like our lightning bolt, and then red arrows and circles, so you know when something's really important. Just please don't put any of those circles or arrows around my nipples. You're already doing it. I know you're doing it. Why did I say it? What was I thinking? Just check out the profile tab on iOS. New stickers, cards, and figures that, again, you can collect for free are released every day. And I hear that they're gonna drop a new collection for a property that, I'm just saying, if you like this channel, you're gonna wanna get in on. Just click on the link in the description and follow us on Quid. Our username is New Rockstars. Add us as a friend, you can trade with us. Come on, let's get closer and be more than friends. I think we're ready. Yeah. Okay, so back to this episode. The other crazy visual gag comes in this awesome montage with Rick and Morty running through various alternate dimensions of chairs and pizzas and phones. And if you look closely at the background, you can see the framed portraits are changing as well. But the one that blew my mind is that later in this chair universe, Rick and Morty pass a homeless chair who drinks out of a bottle that's shaped like a tiny bus. And then immediately after, the bus that passes Rick and Morty is in the shape of a bottle. This attention to detail is insane. Also, later in this episode, Doofus Rick tells Jerry about Eric Stoltz's Mask Morty. And this reference to Eric Stoltz is a subtle nod to Rick and Morty's origin as Justin Roiland's animated Back to the Future parody short called Doc and Marty, which he had to change for legal reasons to Rick and Morty. And a little history on Back to the Future here. The part of Marty McFly was originally played by actor Eric Stoltz before he got replaced by Michael J. Fox because they wanted the character to be a bit more comedic. So the season 1 finale is Rick-see business with the house party. So Rick tells Summer that her improvised nonsense word of glip-glop is a hate word.
Are some glip-glops from the third dimension going to come over and play cards or something?
Glip-glop? You're lucky a Treflorkian doesn't hear you say that. It's like the N-word and the C-word had a baby and it was raised by all the bad words for Jews.
But then later, Rick totally appropriates this hate word.
Yo, what up, my glip-glop?
And one of the guests at this house party is a staircase person from the tavern in the Meeseeks and Destroy episode. Now, I love the character of Abradolf Linkler. All of his lines stem from the fact that he's half Lincoln, half Hitler, and this one's my favorite.
Prepare to be emancipated from your own inferior genes.
And later this episode, Rick grinds up the crystal Calaxian and snorts it, leading him to this choreographed dance. And then when Morty angrily throws a crystal outside, the interdimensional monster snatches it and eats it, and then shortly after that, you can see the creature also happily doing the Rick dance in the background. There's also this really dirty joke from Tammy.
I love watching bukkake. I mean, like, I don't know if I personally would ever do it.
Okay, so kids, cover your ears, but bukkake is a Japanese term for a sexual act that involves lots of men doing something to one woman or man. And then later in this episode, Tammy flirts with Bird Person.
I'm not looking to get into a soul bond. I'm just looking for...
I believe Bird Person can arrange that.
So it sounds like Bird Person is planning a bukkake. I don't even know how you would begin doing that. Okay, moving on to season 2. The season 2 premiere is a Rickle in Time, which opens with this great meta joke.
Phew. Man, that guy is the Redgrin Grumble to pretending he knows what's going on. Oh, you agree, huh? You like that Redgrin Grumble reference? Yeah. Well, guess what? I made him up. You really are your father's children. Think for yourselves, don't be sheep.
So Rick is basically making fun of all the young fans of this show who laugh along to references that they don't understand, like bukkake. I hope you don't understand what that is. And the next episode of season 2 is Morty Night Run with the character of Fart, voiced by Jermaine Clement. And I really appreciated this subtle joke.
I communicate through what you call Jessica's feet. No,
telepathy.
So just to be clear, Fart is reading Morty's mind here, which is, yeah, currently thinking about his crush Jessica's feet. So the song that Fart sings is Goodbye Moon Man, and Jeben Clement is invoking David Bowie. He actually did a Bowie parody on his show Flight of the Conchords. Also in this episode, in the arcade Blitz and Chips, there's a cameo by Mr. Meeseeks in the background. He's helping another alien win a pinball game, and then when he's successful, Mr. Meeseeks vanishes. We also see the Jerry Daycare Center, where the music that's being played is human music, which is the same song from Jerry's Simulation back in season 1, M. Night Shyamalan.
And now here's human music.
Human music. I like it.
Well, look at this fella. Aren't you handsome?
Thank you.
The next episode is Autoerotic Assimilation, and the title itself is an amazing pun. It's also a reference to another sex act, which is a callback to what Morty and Jessica walked in on Squanch doing in the previous season finale. Now, this is the episode with Unity. That's Rick's ex-lover whose consciousness took over an entire planet. And my favorite joke here is a reference to Dan Harmon's previous TV series, Community. So notice how Rick's watching TV, he's playing God, forcing the characters to have sex on the table, and then canceling and uncanceling the show.
Okay, now put it back on. All right, I'm bored.
Which are both things that happen on Community. Okay, the next episode, Total Rickall, is another favorite of mine from the series. The concept of a parasite that creates false positive memories is just so ingenious. And one mystery here is how this parasite made it into the house in the first place. Remember, Rick accuses Summer.
Somebody probably tracked it in last week on the bottom of their shoe or on a piece of alien fruit.
Someone?
Get off the high road, Summer. We all got pink eye because you won't stop texting on the toilet.
But if you look closely at this, there's actually a little visual callback that answers this mystery. Early in the episode, Rick throws out these green rocks, and he got those rocks back in Morty Night Run. And notice how they have these little pink warts on them. These are the same pink warts that are on the parasite corpses. So really, it was Rick that tracked in the parasite from the beginning. And one thing that you might have caught is that Mr. Poopy Butthole was edited into the opening credits, partly to tease this idea of false memories changing our view of the past. But also, this makes sense because these clips in the opening sequence are horrifying negative memories, proving that Mr. Poopy Butthole is actually real. Now, in this episode, Rick talks about how he hoards a supply of limited edition Nintendo 3DSs, which Justin Roiland actually said is something he did in real life, hoping that he'd be able to cash in on them someday. But one little clever joke that I liked in this episode came from Frankenstein admitting he was wrong to gang up on Summer.
I was on the wrong side of the pitchfork on this one.
I'm not even gonna explain that one, that's just great. So after this episode is Get Swifty, which includes an animated cameo by Justin Roiland. He's the guy being sacrificed to the head god with a sign saying thief. And in this episode's amazing post-credits scene, Ice-T is transformed back into Water T, and he attacks the Numericons, shooting the numbers 6 and 7, which is a reference to Tech Nine's album, Sixes and Sevens. The next episode is The Ricks Must Be Crazy, where Rick and Morty go into the different layers of the microverses. Zeep, who's voiced by Stephen Colbert, says this.
I dropped out of school. It's not a place for smart people.
Now this detail is meant to parallel the character to Rick, who said pretty much the same thing back in the first pilot episode.
But I'll tell you how I feel about school, Jerry. It's a waste of time.
There's also this little joke when Rick remembers that he screwed around with the society in the microverse.
You!
What did you say to me?
You told me it means much obliged.
And then this gets called back later this episode.
Much obliged.
I also appreciated in this episode how Rick uses the same hidden snake trick that he used in Get Swifty to make the president think he can turn people into snakes. Okay, skipping past Big Trouble in Little Sanchez to the second interdimensional cable episode, the Little Bits commercial in this episode, when the guy swears in front of children, one of the kids looks up at him and shoots him a dirty look. Now, the next episode is the Purge episode, Look Who's Purging Now, where Summer blows a hole in the garage roof, which gets called back in the following episode when the hole appears freshly patched in the opening establishing shot. Now that brings us to an even 50, but I'm having fun. Let's keep going into season 3. Now I already did a breakdown of the first episode of season 3, so definitely go check that out. I already pointed out a few great missable jokes. Now first there was the memory of Rick in the background as he reacts to 9/11 footage.
Fine, but I'm driving.
Morty also alludes to finding Jerry's mannequin leg, which is a reference to a video that Dan Harmon made that showed him humping a mannequin leg in his bed. And there's also a few Easter eggs for Gravity Falls, like there's a Mabel Morty and a Dipper Morty. There's also a quick frame that shows the outline of Rick's penis. But there were 3 other things that I didn't point out in this episode. First, in the garage, there's a framed picture of Doofus Rick in the cabinet. That presumably belongs to Jerry, who remember got along with him so well in that season 1 episode. Clearly he misses him so much. And then also in the false false memory that Rick created of his origin story, his 1998 house is a recreation of Walter White's house in the show Breaking Bad. Notice how the house layout and architecture and even the bushes in the front yard are exactly the same. And this makes sense because, like Heisenberg, this version of Rick is a kind-hearted family man who ends up using his scientific brilliance for evil purposes. And then finally, season 3 showed us a new end card of the episode that usually shows Dan Harmon's production company logo. Before, it was claymation that showed Harmon with his wife happily watching TV. But now this one shows Harmon after his divorce, alone on the couch, probably drunk. Depressing and hilarious. Now again, there are lots of things I didn't cover on this list, and a lot of it are just references and jokes that I found a little obvious, but I'm curious, what do you think I missed? If there ends up being a lot, I kind of want to make a second follow-up video to this with even more jokes and references. But come on, hit me up in the comments. Let's give each other even more reasons to laugh at this show. Show me what you got. And subscribe to New Rockstars so you can watch any other Rick and Morty videos we make, and you can help Rick and Morty a bigger priority for us by liking this video and sharing it and tweet about it and keep a link to the video in your tweet. You can also be a bigger part of New Rockstars by contributing to us on Patreon. Big thanks to all of our current donors, especially BM Havoc. You can tweet me your favorite Rick and Morty jokes at EA Voss or follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for updates on our videos. Wubba lubba dub dub. Bye.